When we think of the future of the Pride Lands, one name immediately comes to mind: Simba. His journey from an exiled cub to a rightful king is one of the most legendary stories ever told. But what about his son, Kion? Unlike Kiara, who was raised to be queen, Kion was never positioned as a ruler. And yet he possessed a power greater than any lion before him: the roar of the elders. Kion was strong, intelligent, and courageous, yet he made a choice that no other royal lion had made before. He did not return to claim the throne. While Simba walked the path of tradition, Kion forged his own, leaving behind everything he knew. But why? What led him away from the Pride Lands? Some say he was never meant to be king. Others believe he was afraid of becoming like Scar. But one thing is certain: Kion's story is unlike any other in the Lion King universe. His decisions shaped not only his own future, but the future of those around him. Before we uncover the truth, we need to go back to the beginning, to the moment Kion received his power and the destiny that was laid before him. Kion's journey began the moment he discovered the roar of the elders, a legendary power granted only to the leader of the Lion Guard. Unlike his sister Kiara, who was raised to be queen, Kion's path seemed destined for something different, something greater. The roar wasn't just a powerful ability, it was a connection to the great kings of the past. Whenever Kion used it, the voices of ancient rulers resonated through him, amplifying his strength beyond that of an ordinary lion. But with great power came great responsibility. The roar was not a gift to be used carelessly. It had the potential to shape the future of the Pride Lands or destroy them. Scar was proof of this. He too once possessed the roar. But when he used it for selfish reasons, the spirits of the elders abandoned him, stripping him of his power forever. This history haunted Kion, who feared that if he misused the roar, he might follow in Scar's footsteps. Despite this burden, Kion was determined to use his power for good. Unlike past leaders of the Lion Guard who were exclusively lions, Kion chose a diverse team based on skill rather than species. This decision, though untraditional, reflected his belief that strength came in many forms. At first, Simba was hesitant. He doubted whether Kion could uphold the legacy of the Lion Guard with such an unconventional team. But Kion proved himself time and time again, leading his friends through countless challenges. Yet his greatest test was yet to come. The Pride Lands would soon face a threat unlike any before, one that would push Kion to his limits and force him to make a choice that would change his destiny forever. Kion's leadership was tested like never before when the Pride Lands faced their greatest threat: the return of Scar. Though Scar had been defeated by Simba years ago, his influence lingered in the shadows. With the help of Janja's hyenas and a growing alliance of rogue predators, Scar returned, not in physical form, but as a fiery spirit, fueled by anger and vengeance. At first, Kion and the Lion Guard managed to hold back Scar's forces, but the battle took a devastating turn when Ushari, the treacherous cobra, struck Kion with a venomous bite. The pain was immediate, searing through his body like wildfire. The venom didn't just wound him physically, it clouded his mind, filling him with rage, uncertainty, and fear. Kion struggled to maintain control. The roar of the elders, once his greatest weapon, became unstable. Every time he used it, the ground trembled and the sky darkened. His emotions, anger, frustration, and doubt, were amplified through the roar, making it more destructive than ever. The Pride Lands, already suffering from Scar's influence, began to fall apart. Fires spread, rivers dried up, and the harmony that had once defined the kingdom was now on the brink of collapse. Kion knew he had to fight, but he also feared what he might become. Scar had been corrupted by power. What if Kion was heading down the same path? His friends and family noticed the change. Bunga, his oldest companion, tried to encourage him, but Kion's temper flared. Even Simba and Nala, who had once trusted in his leadership, began to question whether the roar was more of a curse than a gift. Desperate for a solution, Kion made a decision that would change his fate forever. He would leave the Pride Lands and seek healing at the Tree of Life. It was the only place where the venom's effects could be reversed, and perhaps where he could finally learn to control the roar. But leaving meant abandoning his home, his family, and the kingdom he had sworn to protect. With the weight of uncertainty on his shoulders, Kion took his first steps toward an unknown destiny. Kion's decision to leave the Pride Lands was not an easy one. Though his friends and family were hesitant, they knew there was no other choice. The venom from Ushari's bite was not just a physical wound, it was affecting his mind, his emotions, and most dangerously, his control over the roar of the elders. Accompanied by the Lion Guard, Kion set out on a journey to the legendary Tree of Life, a hidden sanctuary where animals from across the lands sought healing and wisdom. The journey was long and treacherous, pushing Kion and his team to their limits. As they traveled, Kion's condition worsened. The venom's effects became unpredictable. At times, he felt an uncontrollable urge to use the roar, even when it wasn't necessary. The anger that bubbled within him made him question whether he was becoming like Scar, a ruler corrupted by power. His friends, especially Fuli and Bunga, tried to reassure him, but Kion felt increasingly distant. The responsibility of leadership, the weight of the Pride Land's fate, and the fear of his own power were crushing him. Finally, after a long journey, they arrived at the Tree of Life, where they were welcomed by Queen Janna, the wise and compassionate ruler of the sacred land. Kion was reluctant at first, unsure if this place could truly heal him, but Queen Janna saw through his doubt and guided him toward his greatest lesson yet. To heal, Kion had to let go of his fear. The venom's effects weren't just physical, they had amplified the darkness inside him. His emotions had been controlling him, not the other way around. If he was to master the roar, he had to find balance within himself. Through patience, meditation, and training with the animals of the Tree of Life, Kion slowly began to understand his power in a way he never had before. The roar wasn't just a weapon. It was a force connected to the spirits of the past, something that could only be used wisely. For the first time, Kion questioned everything he had been taught. Did he truly belong in the Pride Lands, or was his destiny something greater? As Kion trained at the Tree of Life, he began to change, not just in his ability to control the roar, but in his understanding of what it truly meant to be a leader. The wisdom of Queen Janna and the teachings of the healers helped him realize something he had never considered before. A king is not bound by land, but by purpose. During his time there, Kion also grew closer to Rani, the fierce yet kind-hearted queen of the Tree of Life. At first, Rani was skeptical of Kion, unsure if an outsider could truly understand the ways of her kingdom. However, as she watched him evolve, learning patience, humility, and wisdom, she saw a leader not driven by power, but by a desire to protect all living things. Meanwhile, the Lion Guard faced an unexpected challenge. With Kion focused on healing, they had to learn to operate without his leadership. Fuli, always independent, stepped up to guide the team, proving that the Guard was more than just Kion's command. It was a legacy of unity and strength. Then came a moment of clarity for Kion. After weeks of healing, he was finally ready to return home. But as he prepared to leave, Rani asked him a question that changed everything. Kion, do you really want to go back? Or have you already found where you belong? Kion was stunned. He had spent so long assuming that his only duty was to the Pride Lands, but in truth, he had found a new home, a new purpose. The Tree of Life needed a protector, someone who understood both the roar and the responsibility that came with it. The choice wasn't easy. The Pride Lands would always be his home, but his journey had transformed him into something more. His destiny was no longer tied to his birthplace, but to something greater. With a heavy heart but a clear mind, Kion made his final decision. He would not return to the Pride Lands as their leader. Instead, he would stay at the Tree of Life and rule alongside Rani, protecting its peace and ensuring that all creatures, no matter where they came from, could find sanctuary. Kion's decision to remain at the Tree of Life marked the beginning of a new chapter in his legacy. Though his heart would always be connected to the Pride Lands, he had chosen a different path, one that set him apart from his ancestors. He was no longer just the son of Simba, nor merely the leader of the Lion Guard. He was a king in his own right. Before fully embracing his new role, Kion had one last responsibility to fulfill. The Lion Guard could not be left leaderless, and his departure meant that the Pride Lands needed a new protector. Returning briefly, Kion saw that Vitani had already formed her own guard, a team of strong lionesses who had stepped up in his absence. She had proven herself as a capable leader, one who could continue the mission of protecting the Circle of Life. Instead of reclaiming his title, Kion did something unexpected. He passed the leadership of the Lion Guard to Vitani. This was a defining moment. It showed that Kion was not just growing into a new role, but willing to let go of his past in order to embrace his future. With his final duty in the Pride Lands complete, Kion returned to the Tree of Life not as a visitor, but as a ruler. Together with Rani, he ushered in a new era of leadership, ensuring that the Tree of Life remained a sanctuary for all creatures who sought peace. Unlike the Pride Lands, where kings ruled over a single territory, Kion's domain was not confined by borders. He and Rani became guardians not just of a land, but of an idea, the idea that all creatures deserved protection and harmony. Kion's story was one of transformation. He started as a playful cub, grew into a warrior, and ultimately became a wise and just king. His journey was not about following tradition, but about forging his own destiny. His legacy was not defined by the throne he inherited, but by the choices he made. And in the end, that was what made Kion a legend.